Well, if that should happen to you, you don't know what's going to happen. It's unforeseen. You missed Passover. If only there was some way that God would provide for you so that you could participate in Passover. And guess what? There was. Numbers chapter 9, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto the Lord the 14th day of the 2nd month at even. They shall keep it and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Well, there you have it. God wanted to give people a second chance. Okay? They were living with the law. The law kind of seems a little rigid to them. God says, I understand these things. I'm going to give you an opportunity to go ahead and have Passover and observe it. Now, we in America would probably think, oh, I got sick and I missed it. I'll just do it, maybe the next weekend or let's see, a week from the 14th. That would be the 21st. I'll just do it then. Well, no. God has a formula here. He really likes that 14th day. For whatever reason. He's got his own reasons. We're not going to question him. So he has made this formula. If you miss it this time, well, look forward to the next month and then do it then. Now back to that 2nd Chronicles verse. The people of 2nd Chronicles, they found out that they were totally in the wrong. And they wanted to get right with God, but they were a few days late to celebrate the Passover. So they used their Bible as their final authority and got right with God on the 2nd month, which God allowed. Now that was about 700 and some years after the first Passover. I wonder if the Bible mentions a Passover after this one. Why, here's one in Ezra chapter 6. And the children of the captivity kept the Passover upon the 14th day of the 1st month. And this would be about 900 years after the first Passover. They are still doing it the way God instructed them to do it. So they're back on track, so to speak. Now they mess up in other areas, but for the most part, for observing Passover, they're back on the calendar. Now I'm going to go back to Acts chapter 12 and concentrate on verse 3. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. The arrest of Peter took place after Passover. Now, since it took place after Passover, then how could King Herod hold him until the Passover to kill him? Well, the answer is he couldn't. Unless you want to make the crazy argument that he's going to hold him for a whole year. Because he would have to hold him for a year if he's going to wait for the Passover. The Passover just happened a few days ago. I hope I've explained this. Now, for some people, this explanation is not good enough. They will continue to argue and give it one more shot. In fact, I'll even show you where they give it yet another shot after that. They'll argue and say whether I'm right or not doesn't make any difference because in the Greek it says Pascha, and that word means Passover. And they'll say that the Greek language would call for a different word for Easter, an entirely different word. Now, if they ever tell you that, you ask them, then what Greek word do they use for Easter? And this is the crowd. They're usually in an all-fired hurry to tell us what Greek words mean anyway, so this should be right up their alley, but they will probably resist and not even tell you. So let's find out for ourselves. I wonder what the Greek people, the Greeks, living in the country of Greece, I wonder what word they use when they say, hey, it's the month of March. I wonder when Easter's coming. That's not an uncommon question. We ask that all the time over here in America. Easter's all over the place. It can be in March or as late as April 25th. Who knows when it's going to be? They have a formula to figure that all out. Well, I happen to have a Greek friend. I asked him, I said, Nicholas, that's his name by the way, Nicholas, what word do you guys use when you say Easter? Now, Nicholas is not a Bible-thumping Christian like I am. He had no idea the context of why I'm even bothering to ask him. I asked him in the month of May, it was the last thing on his mind. He said, Easter? Oh, yeah, that's Pascha. Pascha. My Bible is correct. But they're going to take another shot at it. And here it is. Here's their ace in the hole from Luke 22. They hope that this is going to be a rock that flies through the air and strikes us, because we're the, mean old Goliath to them. And this is going to stagger us, and they're going to swoop in and give us the death blow or whatever. But no. But here it is. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. Wow. That's their verse. Well, I'll say this for it. It's slightly vague. I'll give them that. Sure. Do you really think that this one little verse is going to refute all of the verses I've just shown you? Do you think for 1 minute that Luke himself doesn't even know what Passover is? My final authority is Jesus. This is how I shrug off that. And he said, Go into the city to such a man and say unto him, The Master saith, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. Now, does Jesus keep his word? I would say yes. Didn't Jesus get arrested a few hours later? Yes. Did the disciples join him in being arrested? Did they all get lined up, have their own cross? Were all the disciples put in the grave for a few days with Jesus? No. If the Passover were an 8-day event, then Jesus didn't keep his word to spend it with his disciples. So here's what happened. Herod the king arrested Peter during the days of unleavened bread. He intended after the pagan festival of Easter to bring him forth to the people and eventually to kill him, of course. This all works just fine and dandy. Easter can come as late as April 25th. Somewhere between the 15th and the 21st is when Peter is arrested. And then in just a few days, a few short days, Easter would be here and over. And then King Herod would turn his attention to Peter. He's already got him locked up. He thinks Peter's going to stay in there. Of course, God has other plans and gets Peter out of there. A modern day equivalent of this would be if you get arrested on December 28th, a few days after Christmas. Well, they may hold you until after New Year's before they, do much with you or you see the judge. Or I don't know all the legalities of that, but that's the nearest modern day equivalent I can give you. It fits. He's talking about the pagan festival Easter. Okay? He's not talking about Passover. Passover already happened on the 14th. That was a few days ago. So if you happen to have one of these versions of the Bible, Tyndale's New Testament, the Miles Coverdale Bible, or the King James, you've got the correct word in your Bible. They correctly translate the Greek word Pascha 28 times as Passover, and they correctly translate the Greek word Pascha as Easter 1 time. Tyndale himself is the one that came up with the word Passover. It's a fantastic word. It describes the event perfectly. And when he got to that verse in the book of Acts, he realized, wait a minute, this time it won't fit this way. And so he was wise enough to choose Easter. That's the one that fits.